ॐ ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावतीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति। On this auspicious occasion of Guru Purnima, the students of Vedanta gathered to pay our homage and respects to the Guru Parampara. And we as a tradition continue to pursue this knowledge. Thereby, we take up a topic to ponder. And this day is also referred as Vyasa Purnima, because Vyasa stands as the most ideal teacher. Therefore, we have taken Vyasa as a representative of all the gurus. And he is the central figure for all the paramparas. So, we take his birthday to represent all the gurus and pay homage to all the gurus. And the topic we have taken for today is the strength of surrender. What is surrender? Who can surrender? To whom you should surrender? How you have to surrender? What is the effect of surrender? What is the right mode of surrender and what is the wrong mode of surrender? These are the various aspects that we have to understand in the context of surrender. To understand what is the value of surrender, what is the power of surrender. Now, this idea of surrender is common to all the religions of the world. Every religion says surrender to God and God will save you. He will take care of you. That is the belief of all the religions. So, since God is going to save you, surrender to Him and take Him as your refuge. Now, the idea is very easy. In fact, the entire spiritual journey, if you think carefully, is nothing but one step. It's not a long path. It's a very peculiar journey where you take one step, your journey concludes. And that one step path is the path of surrender. It is surrender that is the beginning. It is surrender that is the middle. It is surrender that is the conclusion. The journey begins with surrender. It thrives through surrender and concludes in surrender. Therefore, surrender is paramount for all the religions. Now, a popular understanding we have, a very popular idea, or rather what it's called as a popular misunderstanding of surrender. There are two popular misunderstandings we have with reference to surrender. One, is you take surrender. I surrender to God means I transfer the responsibility to God. Now it is the business of God to protect me. It is the responsibility of God to take care of me. It is the responsibility of God to solve all my samsaric problems that I go through. So he should be the solution provider for my issues. Why? I have surrendered. Now remember, surrender is not shifting responsibility. In fact, spiritual life means to take up total responsibility for your life. Complete responsibility lies on your shoulders. That is why you have been given this faculty called free will, which is not given to any other creature. Only humans were endowed with this free will, choice. Now, when you are given a choice, you have to own up the responsibility for the choices that you make. You have to own up the responsibility for your future. Does it mean God has no role to play? No, he has a role to play. What is the role of God then, sir? If God were to be taken as the father, the parent, the creator, if you take him to be the creator, then he functions exactly like the parents. In the school, running race competition is there, the child is running. What does the parent do? Parents will be sitting in the gallery and shouting at maximum what? Come on, come on, come on. They clap, they cheer up the child to run. But nevertheless, it is the child who has to run. If you have to win the trophy, the child has to run. You can't say, my parents are cheering me, that is enough for me to get the thing. The parents may be getting the reward for the very good cheerleader. But the child will never get that cup. Similarly, in life, if you want, God will be playing only the role of a cheerleader. That's it. Maximum. He is not going to be deciding which course you are going to take, what is the action that you are going to do, what is the choices that you are going to execute. He has no role to play in that. That is your responsibility. So the first misunderstanding we have is, so before we go to what is the right understanding of surrender, let us clear off this misunderstandings that we have. And there are two popular ones, as I said. The first one is that God is given the total responsibility. Now, whether it is solving my samsaric problems or solving my spiritual problems. Now, God has to grant me this, that. No, responsibility is yours. One. Two, the second misunderstanding is, you read this, you have to surrender to God, and your surrender to God should be absolute. Why? Because don't ever doubt the capacity of the God to save you. God will save you. How God is going to save you? God will save you. Immediately you go to the stories and you would read lot of stories of great, devotees of God. And in every story of the devotees of God, you will find a miracle. Some miracle had happened in their life. You see? So you keep reading that. When you keep reading that, what is the idea you get in is, through the miracles, some miraculous way, suddenly God will solve my problem. Now remember, surrender is not belief in the miracles of God, the miraculous powers of God. But I used to read, a lot of stories when I was small. There are a couple, 2, 3 books I had. All my life, I was reading only those books, in fact. All that again and again, same stories of those devotees. And every story was so interesting to see. Remember, miracles is not the way to get that inspiration for surrender. You believe in God's benevolence because of the miracle. No, it's a wrong understanding. Then what you should believe in, sir? Your belief should be your trust, your faith. Your belief should be in the teachings given by the Lord. Believe the teaching. Believe the Shastras. You see, Shastra, anytime we discuss, immediately you have to go back to this basic understanding. Shastras means the 4 books. The Vedas, the Shruti, the Smriti, Puranas, Itihasa. This 4 put together is called Shastra. That's what Krishna says in the Gita. Says, Tasmat Shastram Pramanam Te Karya Karya Vyavastitau. Says. Therefore, what you should do and what you should not do, you have to take a call based on the teachings of the Shastras. In fact, the Sanskrit word for surrender is Sharanam. And the word Shastram both have the same root. Dhatu, Shru, means to protect. That's what Shastra means. Sashanat trayate iti Shastra. Now, the teachings of the Shastra protects you. Who has given the teachings? The teachings had come from the Lord Himself. So that's your belief is more on the teachings of God than your belief should be on the Bhagavad Gita more than Krishna. Every house will have the idol. Krishna, at least you will have the picture of Krishna. How many houses have got Bhagavad Gita? Book at least. Forget about you reading. Forget about following. Forget about all those things. At least do you have the book with you? Say. That's what we say. Now your belief is where? Are you believing in the teachings of Krishna or you believe in Krishna? I'm not saying you should not believe in Krishna. You should not be believing in Krishna because of the miracles that he had performed. If you surrender to Krishna because of that miracle, it's a pseudo surrender. It's not a true surrender. So there are 2 popular wrong understandings we have. This is surrender. Now we come to the idea, okay, now Ishwaran, what is surrender then? Now surrender, we can understand from 3 different angles. We'll try to give 3 different things, and when you fuse the 3 together, that is surrender. So don't take any one of them exclusively, but any one of them could be highlighting in your life. That is possible. But it will have the other 2 as a backup, like tripod, has 3 legs. See, similarly, the surrender has a tripod. The first dimension of surrender comes to you is when your ignorance gets exposed, you bow down. That bowing down is called a surrender. That's what Gita says. Tatviddi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. How you should gain this spiritual knowledge? Says first thing he tells is pranipatena. Pranipata means by prostration. What is that, sir? You bow down. When do you bow down? Not that mechanical falling at the feet, please. It means what, sir? When you recognize your ignorance, when your ignorance gets exposed to yourself, not to others. When your ignorance gets exposed to others, that is a different thing. You should recognize your ignorance. The problem is there. Why we are struggling for surrender, sir? Even though surrender is the most natural thing to happen. In fact, all the scriptures, the masters say, surrender is the easiest thing to do. But for all of us, it looks such a daring thing to do for us. Such a difficult thing to do for all of us. Why? Is because our ignorance never gets exposed. Why? Because more ignorant we are, more we get into the belief that I know. More ignorant I am, more we try to cover it up with lot of knowledge, lot of information, lot of words. The ignorance gets camouflaged, presents itself with a lot of information. So we think, now I have that information with me, therefore I am not having ignorance with me. Earlier I did know. You probe, how did you get that information? Somebody told you. Like a child comes and asks the mother, what is God? Right. Now, if mother were to be really an honest person, she has to say what? I don't know. Okay. And the mother will never say, I don't know to a child. She says what? God, I'll take you. She'll take you to the puja room, or they take that to the temple, or they say some story and say, this is God. Now, you don't even know what is God actually, but you had communicated that idea to the child, and that the real tragedy is the child is so innocent, it accepts, it can never suspect that mother can be lying to the child. Mother can be ignorant. The father can be ignorant, because as far as every child is concerned, their father, the mother were their greatest heroes of life. So they think whatever they are saying is correct. So it starts believing in that. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Over a period of time, it becomes too obvious. And once it becomes obvious, you never questioned it. You never challenge it. That is how ignorance gets seasoned. It gets settled. Like, see, if you are wearing a shirt which is loose, easy to remove, isn't it? You can easily remove that. If the shirt were to be tight, it's stuck to the body, how difficult it is to remove. Now, imagine your skin. Your ignorance has stuck to you like its skin. How can you peel off that skin? That's why we worship snake. Why? Renunciation. Picture of renunciation, they say, is snake. Why? It sheds its own skin. It's stuck to the body. It leaves and goes. The picture of renunciation, they say. What is it, sir? Your ignorance is so deep-rooted today. And what is ignorance? Remember, ignorance means this. Ignorance means the belief that I know something when I really don't know. Belief in certain areas of life where I have never exerted myself to understand. Like there are people who say, you have this palpitation. Oh, you got palpitation. Okay. From tomorrow, don't have curd rice. You see? Don't have curd rice from tomorrow. Why? Now, what does that person know about palpitations? What is the study they have done? Nothing of that sort. No effort has been put in from their side to understand, to probe, to investigate, to study, to learn a particular field. That field can be any field. It can be a field of medicine, it can be a field of engineering, it can be a field of law, it can be a field of life also. Of all the fields, the most difficult one is life. Because every one of us believe we know how to live life. Every one of us believe we know who we are and what we are. Maximum, when I say, or when you read Ramana Maharishi, when Ramana Maharishi says, who are you? Who am I? You will say, I don't know. On the roadside, if somebody were to ask you, who are you? What is the answer from you? Do you know who I am? You start, isn't it? Now, you have never had that, a doubt about yourself. Why? Because you have already concluded. Now, the tragedy of conclusion is, the moment you have concluded something means you are no longer going to investigate. You will never relook at that. It will start looking to you obviously correct. Now, any field of life where you are ignorant, if you recognize it, the first thing happens to you is you bow down. Don't ask to whom. It doesn't matter. Now, all of us say, okay, I'm willing to surrender provided, you are bigger than me. Right? Like people ask, show me God, then I will surrender. Now, it doesn't work like that. After surrender, only God appears. Now, without anything, you have to do it. Now, why? Because we say, first tell me. First give me the salary, then I will work. Which company will pay you? If you run a company, you will never do that. After the work only, salary will be paid. Some companies don't pay that also. Right? They say cash flow problem, wait for another 2 months, 6 months. There are people who complain, for the last 4 months, we have not got our salaries. Now, ignorance means any conclusions that you have come to with reference to anything in life where you have not studied, where you have not put in effort. Effort means you have not put in a systematic effort. Understood that is. So any effort of learning has to be systematic. The systematic effort, systematic education, I have not gone through, and I have come to certain conclusions. Those conclusions are called ignorance. Now, we think ignorance means not having an information. Now, I don't know what is chemistry. Why? I don't have informations on that. But I have a lot of information with reference to stock market. Therefore, I claim that I have knowledge of stock market. Now, that's not the way to understand ignorance. When you understand that I have not worked on this particular field, in this particular aspect, in one aspect of life, we have never cared to probe, is to know what is a real nature. Don't jump in and say that, what is your real nature? Atman, Brahman, consciousness, pure consciousness, awareness. See, it's just borrowed. You just borrow those words from the books. That's what Shakespeare says. And Hamlet was reading a book. The minister goes and asks him, what are you reading? He shows a book and says, words, words, words. All words. So first thing, surrender happens to you when your ignorance gets exposed to you. Right. Point number one. The second aspect is, in surrender, you stake everything that is there with you like a gambler almost. Businessmen don't do that. The gambler will stake everything that he has and wait for something to happen. You see, wait for that. That capacity in a person is called surrender. The capacity in a person to stake everything, all that I have, all that I know, all that I believe, all my powers, everything is stake. Beautiful example we have is Mahabali. I can't go into the detailed analysis. Now, any time surrender you discuss, remember this 4 people. If you remember these 4 people, you can understand surrender easily. All 4 had a fantastic dimensions of it. Draupadi, Gajendra, Mahabali, Vibhishana. These 4 fellows were the classic representations of surrender. It's like, that's what, this Mahabali does. The first 2 feet, Vamana had covered everything. The third one, the cheek of him is to ask Mahabali for the third one. Because in the first one itself, he has covered the entire earth. In the second foot, he has covered the heaven. So he has covered all this, all that, which is nothing but the known realms of the world and the unknown realms of the universe. Both he has covered. The known he has covered in the first foot, unknown he has covered in the second foot. Now he is asking for, where is the third feet? Where is the place? And Mahabali beautifully, he says, put it on my head, he says. What is it, sir? No. He had lost everything. Still, that man says, there is one more area which is even bigger than the known universe and the unknown universe, the known world and the unknown heavens. All that is covered in the first 2. Third one, he says, what? Put it on my head. What is it? The inner ego of mine, the world of my ego is far, far superior to the world of external, known universe and the unknown universe. To stake all that and wait is the state of surrender. 2. The third dimension is to let go of the need to have control. Now, wherever we go, we want to have control, and I should be giving the direction. That's why we have started discussing about leadership in the schools also nowadays. In the other school where I was going, They were having a leadership training for the 7th standard kids. They were asking me. I said, every school, everybody were to become a leader. Who is going to be a follower then? Nobody is going to be a follower. Everybody wants to have what, sir? I want to be in a leadership position. What is a leadership position? Leadership means what? I control. I decide. I direct. Others execute. I decide something, and that needs to be executed by others. Then I am the leader for them. That's all. You see? Now, every one of us wants to have that idea of holding on, the capacity to let go. Now, what is interesting is what you are asked to let go is not the reality. Letting go is what, sir? Letting go is only two things. The first 2 points we saw. The first one is ignorance. What is that ignorance, sir? 2 plus 2 equals 5. Now, if I have to go in search of the real answer, which is 4, first thing I have to do is what? I have to acknowledge, I have to suspect that maybe my answer 5 is wrong. That suspicion is called ignorance. After that suspicion, what I have to do is I have to let go and then go in search of the real answer, conclude it as 5. Sorry, 4. I am also getting confused. Because my understanding is very clear. Why, sir? 2 plus 2 is 5. That is my conviction. Even if I'm explaining, I will not leave that. You see, that deep rooted is like, that's why I say no, skin like it is. It is stuck there. So remember, 2 plus 2 is 5 is ignorance. But I believe that as knowledge. That's called real ignorance. Now, I have to suspect that one part of it, 33% of knowledge, 33% of surrender is that. Another 33% is this. What is it? I should let go of 5 and go in search of the real answer. Finally, I will arrive at 4. That letting go. One side. On the other side, what is happening, sir? I'll give you one more example. Right. Another example is, imagine a banyan tree. Right. In that tree, or even mango tree is okay. Season now. The tree, there is a wind. When there is a wind, the whole tree swings, moves about. Okay. When the whole tree moves about, a particular leaf in the tree assumes a separation, assumes that I am different. Right. And it starts developing an independent agenda of what? I am not going to move. I am going to be stable. I am going to sit like Buddha. Now, what will happen to that leaf? More that leaf attempts to be stable, more that leaf will be pushed. It can never succeed in that attempt. How much ever it tries, it will meet with failure only. Now, this is ego. What is ego, sir? Assuming an independence existent. Assuming that I have got an independent existence is called ego. A separate aspirations, a separate aspiration of its own. The leaf develops. The tree swings. Leaf doesn't want to. There is a friction. That friction is because of that assumption of individuality. In Vedanta, when we say ego, we are not talking about arrogance. the superiority complex. That's not what is referred here. What is referred here as ego is that assumption of that separation, individuality, as a result of which you carry that load of anxiety because of that friction. That friction causes that tension, that anxiety, that agitation. This to let go with the understanding that it is unnecessary, because that leaf cannot have, it doesn't have an independent existence. It's a part of the totality. In fact, it's the totality. This is the understanding where you let go. What you should let go, sir? You let go your ignorance, you let go your assumption. When that happens, you start going in search of something which is unknown to you. You don't know that. That search, when you go there in that direction, that is where you need surrender. Because when you go in search of the unknown, always there is uncertainty. Right? What's going to happen? You don't know that. When you are not knowing that, this uncertainty will definitely cause agitation. Because I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. That's why all of us read maximum read column newspaper. What is it? Today. What is today? Astrology. This week. Every Sunday Times of India will put. You just collect for about, I have a collection, sequence. It's a permutation combination. That's all. For this week, that paragraph, that week, this paragraph, it's just, jungling. That's all, in fact. And all these people, 2020, how is it going to be? Somebody was sending me, this, the astrologers, predicted how this 2020 going to be for people. They say, why do you go there? Why do you want? See, don't you know future is unpredictable? You know that. Everyone knows it. It's not that you don't know. Nobody is here is going to believe that future is already there. It's not like, my room is there. I have to just get up and go and enter into it. It's not like that. It's not that my car is already there. I have to get into the car. It's not like that. Future is a non-existing thing. It just evolves. We have no clue what is going to be. It's like I have to go in. I don't know whether car is going to be there or cycle is going to be there or nothing is going to be there, but I have to get in. That is called future. Everybody knows that. But still, what's there? We want something to hold on. See, the mind demands something to be certain about. Why? Because if it is uncertain, change, resistance, uncertain, I cannot take it. That's why we are so scared of future all the time. See, future, fear of future, always there. Why? Anxiety. From where it is coming, sir? It's coming from that uncertainty. Now we believe, okay, the world is uncertain. God should be what? Who is opposite? No. God should be certain. If materialism is uncertain, spirituality should be what? Certain. That's why wherever you go, any master, any guru who gives something certain, all that you have to do is what? Do this puja. He is very popular, isn't it? All that you have to do is what? Do this particular place you go. You go to that temple and do that. Is a huge following. Go to Koke Subramanya, do this puja, come back, problem solved. Certainty, you see. But in spirituality, when you come to the scriptures, to the Shastras, you come to God, He is far more unpredictable. You can't predict God. That's why we worship Krishna as Purna Avatar. Why, sir? Of all the avatars, the most unpredictable avatar is him. If imagine Buddha would have lived for another, 10 years, what he would have done? He would have visited 100 more villages, taught to another 1,000 fellows. You can predict. If Krishna would have lived for another 10 days, forget about 10 years. In 10 days, what he would do? Impossible to predict him. That's why we consider Krishna to be Purna Avatar. It's so unpredictable. It's a perfect representation of the spiritual. That's the master. That is the teachings. That is the scriptures. That is God. Now, I am so tired of this unpredictability of the world, and I am told opposite of that is God. So I believe God should be predictable, spiritual path should be predictable. Right? Now, when you turn in this direction, suddenly where are you, sir? That's why, in Republic, that book by Plato, he gives a beautiful metaphor, classic metaphor of Plato, where he talks about, generation of people, generations after generations, people have been living in the deep recesses of a cave. They have never seen the world, outside world. They have been living in that cave for, we don't know how many generations. And in that cave, once in a while, there will be this fire shooting up. Maybe volcano, we don't know. Just, he says, that's all. Once in a while, the fire shoots up. When the fire shoots up, the shadows of these people will seem to be dancing on the walls of the cave. That's their entertainment. Don't ask me what they were doing for eating, from where they are getting water, this, that, and all. One thing for sure, they were not getting coronavirus. They are isolated, so there is no problem for them. How they were living, Allah, he doesn't say. He just says they were living there. In that, suddenly one boy in that group asked these people, all around us there is darkness. What is inside the darkness? As our mother gave the answer, what is God? The elders gave answer. What is there in the darkness? Inside the darkness, there is a demon. Whoever goes in, the demon will eat. Okay, suppose if I escape the demon and go out, there's no such thing. It's only dark outside, nothing else. It's only darkness. And this boy, after a point of time, he couldn't hold his curiosity. One day, when everyone was sleeping, he sneaked out. He started moving. He took a turn, this, that. After about, 2, 3, left, right, and all that, he got into a position where total darkness. At least earlier, he had some little light coming from that fire. Little light was there. Now, he has taken the 2, 3 turns. It is pitch darkness. He can't even see his hands. That much of darkness it is. It's so scary. And the boy said, let's see, what is there. And he was moving. And the darkness was increasing. And the fear is increasing. You see. And he is groping. Slowly he is crawling and he's hitting. He gets hit here, he hits there, a bruise here, bruise there. He goes, and suddenly he sees at a distance a sparkling diamond, something so sparkling he sees. Now, when he saw that, he started moving towards that. Let's see what is that. As he started moving closer to that, the size, that light, that sparkle became bigger and bigger and bigger. And it happened to be the mouth of the cave. And he comes out. Now, this is where you need a little imagination. If you're not imaginative, you can't understand this. You can't appreciate it. You got to imagine the person living inside that cave from birth. For about 25 years or so, he's been living inside the cave. And first time he is coming out and he is breathing fresh air. Forget about all the things. He's seeing the birds flying. He's seeing the brook, the waterfall, the flowers, the fragrance, the fruits. He's seeing those animals. He's seeing this. In the night, he's seeing the stars in the sky. I don't know how many of you have got a chance to see. You look up and see, oh, it's so beautiful. It is. And tonight, if you get a chance, go out and see full moon. Supposed to be the brightest moon you get in a year. That's why we take this Guru Purnima as the study, representation, because it's supposed to be astronomically, that's the thing. They say it's the moon appears so big today. If the clouds are not there, we can see. I don't know. If the clouds are there, means we can't see in Bangalore. He's seeing, he is in ecstasy, this boy. And he is enjoying there for a week. After 1 week, suddenly he realized that the entire group is stuck inside. Let me go and bring them out. So he gets into the cave and comes in. And this boy, the generation thought, this boy is dead. Suddenly from the darkness, this fellow appeared. They thought the demon has come in to eat all these people. And earlier he had this beard and all that. Now he has done shaving and all that. You see, so they couldn't recognize him. See, and he has taken bath, all that. They couldn't feel, they couldn't recognize. And he brought some fruits also with him. Some 2 mangoes he brought, 1, flower, lotus he brought, some rose he brought to show those people. They definitely confirmed, this guy is a demon. They chained him. Put him in the chain. He said, no, I am that boy. They said, no, this is demon has come in that. No, he says, he is telling those people, I told you people, there is fresh water, fresh air, there is vegetables, there are fruits, there are place for us to see, there is light, there is moon, there is sun, there is stars. He goes on saying, they don't understand a word of what he is speaking. And this guy is not stopping. He is going on talking. One day when everybody else was sleeping, another boy came close to this man. The guy woke him up. Said, hey, are you really saying something like that exists outside? He said, of course. Can you take me? He said, yes. Unchain me. I'll take you. Now he knew the path. Now there is no problem for him. We know how to steer through. Yes, takes left, right, and now the second fellow who comes out, he was in ecstasy. Both these fellows were enjoying the shower. They are swimming in that water, enjoying that. Then this boy said, the first fellow said, hey, now it's your turn. You go inside and bring 1 more fellow. I'll stay back, you go inside. And this is what we call as the Guru Parampara. Parampara, the tradition, is this. Every master, what they are talking about, we have no clue of what they are speaking. It's not that what they're saying is false. It's all truth. But we just can't understand what they're speaking. And what is interesting in that, where I was coming to is, the first boy, when he was moving around, see, there was a phase of absolute uncertainty. You see, like Sita in Ramayana, Ravana abducted Sita and he has taken and kept Sita in Ashokavana. What was she doing for 10 months there? No guarantee. She doesn't even know whether Rama knows that it is only Ravana who has abducted her. And she doesn't even know whether Rama is putting effort to come and rescue. Whether Rama knows that she is in Lanka. Nothing she knows. Total uncertainty. In that absolute uncertainty, what is going to keep the mind calm, collected, relaxed, is the surrender. So remember, it is surrender that is going to help you to start the journey. If you have to start the pursuit of knowledge, you have to recognize your ignorance first. Only then you will start the pursuit. So what is going to help you to seek, search? That's surrender. And the moment you surrender, no matter to what, you see, surrender can happen to two types of people. You see, there are two types of people we have in the world. One is a devotional type of people, and there are intellectual people, rational. The devotional type of people will take, I surrender to God. You see, surrender to God. The intellectual type of people say, I surrender to the Shastras. The devotional type surrender to Guru. Intellectual type surrender to the goal of realization. The destination. They surrender to the destination. They sustain that destination, the idea of realization, the goal of moksha. Want to get out of this samsara, the idea of liberation. They sustain that idea. The idea to be sustained, that's the problem. Understanding is not the problem. Understanding that you have to evolve, you have to grow, you have to realize, you have to get moksha, you have to be liberated. That's not the problem. The problem is not the understanding part of for all of us. The problem is constant remembrance of it. You see, the main issue for all of us is not the understanding, remembering it. You see. Now, how can you do that, sir? That's where we have a guru who stands as a reminder. He stands to remind us of the goal, and he is the embodiment of the goal. Liberation, embodiment, enlightenment is a concept. Now, we cannot understand, we cannot reinforce that idea, but every time you see a guru is a picture of enlightenment. The meeting of him reinforces the idea of realization, the idea of liberation, growth. Now, you surrender to that. So either you surrender to God, Guru, or you surrender to the Shastras or the goal, depending upon your nature. If you are a devotional type, you have a choice to surrender either to Guru or God. That's what Kabir says. If Govinda and my Guru were to come together, he says, my first prostration is to my Guru. Why is that? Because Without this Guru, I wouldn't have known Govinda. Therefore, my first prostration is to Guru, he says. So between the two, Guru is treated as most important one. Devotional type of people. Same way, the intellectual type of people will they go and surrender to the teachings, the Shastras, teachings and the instruction. Shastra gives these two things. Shastras give us the teachings. Also, the Shastras give us the instructions. How you should live life. Certain disciplines were given, certain practices were given. Those things are all instructions. How you have to do, that's all instructions. Along with instructions, they give the principles, the philosophy. That's the teaching part. These two you surrender to. Means what, sir? In surrender, what are you doing? Means I suspend my thinking and subscribe somebody else's thinking. That's called a surrender. I repeat. In all that whole drama, entire lecture is only for this one thing to explain. That's all. You may say waste of time. I don't know what else to do. 1 hour I have to talk. No. So I said, okay, we'll give some understand. What is it, sir? It means only one thing. Surrender means my ability to suspend, subordinate my understanding and subscribe somebody else's understanding. I keep aside my goals, my private goals, and subscribe to the goal of realization. I keep aside my understandings of life and take the teachings and instructions given by the Shastras, by Guru. It could be anything, depending upon your nature. That's all it is. Now, this surrender happens in two different forms. There are two very popular presentations we have with reference to surrender. This Vaishnava tradition gives that beautifully. There they explain there are two ways. One is the monkey, the way of the monkey. Another one is the way of the kittens. This Markata Riti or Marjara Riti. They say there are two ways in which the surrender works. This Markata, this monkey thing is, how does the mother take the young ones? If you see, the mother will not be holding the young ones. It is the young one that clings to the body of the mother. And the mother keeps jumping from branch to branch. You see, it is a young one which holds to the mother's body. Whereas, if you see the kittens don't do all that. It's littered, it's just there in a place. And all that it goes on is crying. Meow, 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 it will go on. And the mother will come, carry it so carefully from this place and put it in another place. The movement for this kittens is not through itself. It's purely by the mother. Monkeys is not like that. Now, this is the two ones. And both these people always keep claiming which is superior. Now, there's no superior, inferior, please. Right? Now, it's like asking which is superior, kitten better or monkey better? Now, there's no meaning to it. You see? Because they are two different things. Isn't it? Is washing machine better or dishwasher better? Which is better? One lady says, my husband is better because he does both. You're two in one. Which is better? There's no meaning to it, isn't it? There's no way you can be comparing like that. They are two different patterns depending upon your nature. If you are a monkey, you go take the path of monkey. If you are a kitten, you take the path of the kitten. However, there is another possibility is also there. The possibility is you start your journey as monkey and conclude it as kitten. That is also possible. But the reverse is not possible. You can't start as a kitten and conclude as monkey. That is not possible. So probability 1, chance 1 is you are a monkey, you stay as monkey. You are a kitten, you stay as kitten. Or the third one is you start as monkey, conclude as kitten. These are the three possibilities we have. Vedanta prescribes the third one. Is initially how you have to behave, sir. Initially, it has to be your effort. You have to put in that effort. It is like this. A man has made an announcement that tomorrow, 12 o'clock, there is going to be Annadhanam. For Annadhanam, what I have to do, sir? They said, no, you don't have to pay anything. It's free. Oh, free. No conditions, no conditions. Absolutely zero conditions. And Annadhanam has to happen. And this man comes and stands. He has prepared all this, 7-course meal is ready for Annadhanam. Not like what we do Annadhanam. You see, our Annadhanam and all is very, very easy one. What is it, sir? Puliyogarai. You make one puliyogarai and provide to everybody. This is our Annadhanam. Annadhanam in Periya Puranam, this, Meikandar Nayanar, he is known for this Annadhanam. Every day he would prepare 24 varieties. Because there are 6 tastes we have and 4 ways of eating. 6 tastes and 4 ways of eating that. Sweet is a taste that can be eaten in 4 ways. See, what is it, sir? Sucking. Then lick. Then swallow. Then chew. These are the 4 ways of eating. And taste, you people know. I don't have to go to the details of what is the taste and this. So for every taste, that 4 variety he would make every day. And he would serve people like that. Annadhanam, like that he has prepared. And he was standing, nobody has come. This man is standing there and nobody has come. He says, hey, what is this? Nobody is there? Yeah, why? You only said no, absolutely no conditions. You should put a condition what? You should have put at least one condition. What's the minimum condition required? People should come, no. Then after 1.5 hours, 2 fellows came. He said, Appa, at least I got 2 fellows. Come, eat. He says, no. You only said no conditions, no. Yeah, of course, there's no conditions. Yeah, then why are you calling me? What? I'm not hungry, he says. I just now finished lunch in my house. I'm coming for a walk to digest that. I'm passing by. Now I don't have hunger. Now this man says, now what am I to do? Hey, you only said no. When you say Annadhanam, understood is what? Conditions. What are the conditions? People should come. Also, they should have hunger. If there is no hunger, even if he provides, you can't cherish it. You see that? Similarly, even if God were to grant this through his grace, what we call as anugraha, Beautiful word, anugraham. It is Lord's grace, we say. What is this anugraha, sir? Anu plus graha. Anu means following. Graha means to get hold. What is interesting is, God follows you to get hold of you. Only when you followed God to catch hold of Him. Otherwise, He will not. And Ramakrishna Paramahansa gives a beautiful example. He says, it's exactly like this. The ocean comes to receive the Ganges. After the Ganges ran for thousands of miles, hundreds of miles it has to run and come towards from the Himalayan heights. She has to come to Calcutta. There, if you see where this Ganges entering the ocean, if you see, the water is salty. You see, that merging point for a few kilometers, the water is salty. Why is that? They say the sea has entered the ocean. This sea has entered the river to receive it. That's called anugraha, it says. Anugraha is possible only if you come up to this point. After that, it is His anugraha. Remember. So, liberation is not going to be happening to you because of your effort. It's not that I pay the price, I get the product. Liberation is not that. Why? Because it is infinite. You cannot achieve infinity through finite efforts. Chandogya Upanishad says, Brahman reveals to the people whom he chooses to reveal. How he is going to make that choice? If it is his choice, what is my effort? No, he will reveal only after he is satisfied that you have attempted. What is your attempt? You are attempting to capture something which is impossible to capture. And you are refusing to leave it. You cannot capture it. You cannot understand it, but still you are not leaving it. You are continuing your effort. When you continue, that is the time that anugraha comes. What will help you to sustain the journey? Without this, sir, effort throughout is surrender. So what is this power of surrender, sir? The strength of surrender is it gives you protection. It is such a cool thing to be under the shade of the Master, God. Protection, completely protected you are. It is so cozy to be inside His protection. And it is surrender that opens up the possibility to receive the knowledge. You are in a state of receptivity. And it is surrender that relaxes you. And it is surrender that sustains the journey through that uncertainty. And this is surrender. Now, when you work, when you annihilate your mind, through this effort, you are in a state of surrender. And then you take a jump into realization. That final jump of finite to infinity. This is the strength of surrender. On this auspicious day, let us reinforce that spirit of surrender in ourselves and invoke the Spirit in us. Thank you.